a while to get here, and because I had a heavy bag full of these books for you, I sort of drove, and I think I would have been much quicker to just walk across. But anyway, thank you for having me. I've been a counsellor for 20 odd years now. I'm very passionate about the profession of counselling. I can also answer questions about Christian Heritage College because I did all of my training there, my bachelor's and my master's. I've also been a lecturer there, so I've done quite a few things around the place. So firstly, I'll tell you a little bit about Christian Counsellors Association, and then at the end we might have some questions about supervision and everything else, if that sounds okay. So Christian Counsellors, does anyone know about Christian Counsellors Association?
Nothing at all.
Nothing, okay. Is there anyone who would be looking to join a Christian association? There's a number of professional counselling associations in Australia. Christian Counsellors started some years ago now because we recognise that for people who have a faith, they might want to learn alongside other like-minded people and have an association that will help to support them through their counselling journey. So we have state associations in every state, and we also have national representation as well. So some of the things that's worth being part of an association, and not just us but any association, is that it helps you to be seen as more professional if you belong to an association. There's been a lot of social work, and psychologists can get Medicare bulk billing. Counsellors haven't got that yet. We don't know when and if that will happen, but belonging to an association will be critical for that. We're here to support and encourage people in their Christian faith and practice. You receive accreditation. All of our standards are set by PACFA. Anybody heard of PACFA? That's the peak body of counsellors. It's the professional and, let me think of this, Professional Association of Counsellors in Australia. So it's the big body of and they do a lot of negotiating with government around qualifications and rules and all of that sort of thing. The other thing we do is we offer professional development. As a counsellor, don't think you've just done a degree and you'll be right, because counselling is one of those professions where you need to be learning all of the time. I've lost count of how many workshops I've attended, but they've all been good to hear about specific areas from people who are experts in the field. Last week we had a presentation from a lady who's been a counsellor for a long time who spoke about the person of the counsellor, what we bring into the counselling interaction. In September, on the 5th, the Saturday, Christian Counsellors has a sexologist coming from New South Wales who is on consultant advisory boards for the government. She's a Christian. She offers a really entertaining discussion about sex and spirituality. Some of you might go, oh, that sounds like something I'd be interested in, but she's very good and I'd recommend her. Why would you join us? Membership means that you've got support. You've got an association there to help you in your journey. Means a level of professionalism. We have public liability insurance that you can access via the association, and every 2 years we hold a national conference in different states of Australia. The next one hasn't been quite confirmed yet, but the news is that it will be in Sydney and it will be held in conjunction with PACFA. So that means they'll be drawing on a whole lot of professionals, sharing a whole lot of really good information with you. She's a very good speaker, Patricia, that's coming Saturday. Now we have different levels of membership, and this will all sound confusing, but you can find it on our website, and the details are on the back of your folder. So do you want me to write that up, Corey?
If you want, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, it's not going to work, is it? How do I get that off?
If you go on the bottom second, just go a bit up to where the razor is. Just one more.
Yeah.
One more. One up.
Oh, that one?
That one here. And just say yes.
Okay. So hopefully I can make this work. Okay, I've mastered the whiteboard, so that's good. So if you go to our website, there's lots and lots of information there, but we've also put some in your pack for you. So you'd probably be looking at the student level of membership at this stage. And we charge $70 for that, but that gives you membership of the association. It also gives you professional development at student costs. So for example, Patricia that's coming in 2 weeks, it's going to cost $160 for people who aren't members, $120 for members and $60 for students. So if you're wanting professional development and you want to start your log of extra learning, we have a meeting on the, I think it's the third Thursday of every month, but it's always in the website. This one will be a Saturday because she's got so much information to share. So we have a student level, we have an associate level for those who are counselling but they don't quite meet the criteria for intern membership, and you'll understand more of that when you go to the website. I won't go into it because you'll go, I don't remember what she said. So, registered members, they're people who have done their degrees and they're actively involved in practising counselling, and they're listed on the National PACFA registration. So you can go online and find a therapist anywhere in Australia through that line. Also, member of Christian Counsellors, once you get to registered level, means that you can be listed on our Find a Christian Counsellor website as well. So there's, and I've had quite a few referrals come in from the websites. There's different levels. You might say, well, why have we got all these different levels? Intern level is about how much supervision to counselling you're having. Corey's talked to you about supervision. He says it every second word. I would agree. My personal belief is that if your counsellor isn't getting supervision, you shouldn't be going to them for therapy. It's that important. And I'll explain a bit more about that later on. So an intern has to have a rate of supervision to counselling. That for every 4 hours of counselling, they've got to have an hour of supervision. For a graduate, that's still the same ratio, but they've got to have 160 total hours of counselling before you can become a graduate. And this is so that you're getting the experience and the knowledge that you need. A clinical has to have 7, yes?
Sorry, I'm just wondering, does it have to be by approved counsellors from them?
It can be by counsellors. Do you mean counsellors or supervisors?
Either or,
Okay.
wherever we're going with it.
I would, if I was going to counsellor, I'd look for someone who was a member of an association, because then they're working under a code of ethics. And supervisors, you'll find approved supervisors on the sites.
Okay.
Because what you want to do is find someone who's got a good depth of academic knowledge, but also a good depth of personal practical experience.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
And a graduate is 160 total hours. As I said, a clinical, to become registered at clinical level, you have to have done 750 hours of counselling. That has to all be signed off, and you've got to provide evidence that you've done it. So you've got to keep logs and all of that sort of thing. So for a supervisor, they have to go do approved supervision training. So it's not just someone who looks over your shoulder at work. It's actually someone who's really studied the art of counselling and knows how to help you get the best out of your counselling work. Okay? And as a clinical supervisor, I also have to attend supervision of my supervision. So I attend a group 4 times a year where we discuss cases and how we're going with it. So it's an ongoing thing. I always say to people, if you're looking to make a lot of money, probably counselling isn't your best profession. I hope that's all right to say that, Cornelius.
Oh, what?
But there are people who do get good jobs, for example, for organisations like Relationships Australia or Lifeline or Uniting Care Community. There are counselling jobs out there with organisations. And look, there are some counsellors who make very good money, but they've usually worked very hard to get their name known in the community, and they do other things as well. So, yeah. So that's about our organisation. I wouldn't want to be counselling without the backup of a professional organisation, because then I've got a code of ethics that I have to work with. I've got access to good insurance for public liability, and if you haven't got public liability insurance, I wouldn't be counselling either, because all sorts of things can go wrong. Yes?
Sorry, what's the base if you don't earn heaps? Do you know, like, enough for like your normal job? You get 300 to 500 a week, or
It depends. It depends where you are.
like even that doesn't need like the minimum? There's always
Yeah, it depends what you're charging per session. There's a whole lot of things.
But if you were employed by like Lifeline or Headspace or something, are they just paying you like a weekly wage, or are they paying you per client?
No, they're
base?
paying you a weekly wage, and that's where that can be worthwhile because you'll be paid whether clients turn up or not.
Okay.
In private counselling, your work very much depends on whether your client actually walks through the door. Even in our little counselling service that we have at our church, we depend totally on money that comes in from our clients.
So do you know roughly how much it would be if like you're getting paid a weekly base? Like how much the minimum would probably be?
You'd have to contact Relationships Australia to ask questions like that.
Okay.
I think there's an award called the SACS Award that you can look at. It's SACS. So you could look up that. I think it's probably, I worked for Relationships Australia about 8 years ago, and I think I was getting somewhere around the $24 a mark. It's probably gone up now.
Sorry, Adam, I've got a question from Periscope.
Yes.
It says, do you need public liability when you work in private practice?
Yes, most definitely. If you're working for an organisation, it's usually covered. But if you're working in private practice, I wouldn't do it without insurance ever, because you never know what can happen. Yeah.
So what's that called again? Public liability
Yes.
insurance?
And we have a company that we use that you can contact them and say, I'm a member or I'm becoming a member of Christian Counsellors Association, and you will get a special rate for your insurance. Okay. You do have to have a Christian faith and be a practising Christian to be part of the organisation, just so that you're aware. But there is other organisations like ACA, which is Australian Counsellors Association, or there's QCA, which is the Queensland Counsellors Association. So do your research and look for what you're looking for. So is there any more questions about membership or?
I have a question, but it's got nothing to do with it. I just want to ask what church you go to.
Logan Uniting, where I work. And you're asking that because?
Hey?
Why are you asking that? Can I ask?
So I practice church.
That'd be lovely, thank you.
This guy.
Yeah, so have you got questions about anything else? That's our membership rundown. You will find it in your book. We'll also put in one of our magazines for you as well, so there's a lot of good articles in there. I know that you've got an assessment that you have to do, so this could be time to pick my brains for your assessment. Just a thought. Having been a lecturer myself, I know how much students need to get lots of good information, and don't leave it till the last minute. That would be my advice. So is there any questions about supervision, or Corey can ask them if he thinks they'll be helpful for you?
To become a supervisor,
Yes.
how many hours practical experience do you need to become a supervisor?
Well, for Christian counsellors, we would say you have to be a clinical member, so you have to have done 750 hours of counselling. Or you can do it as part of a degree. I did my counselling training, my supervision training as part of my master's degree. But you still have to be seeing lots of people.
And then another question one of the students asked is, if you are a member of this counselling association, what is required for you for supervision? How many, if you're now qualified, you've got your degree, you're busy in the practice,
Yes.
how many hours of counselling before you see a supervisor?
Well, they're saying the ratio when you're first beginning is 1 in 4. So for every 4 hours of counselling, you need to have an hour with a supervisor. So that can become an expensive exercise, but if you're really serious about the work that you're doing, you need it. It's like brushing your teeth, you need to do it. Yes.
Excuse me. If you're working in a voluntary position with a non-profit organisation, how does the supervision reality come into?
You still
there?
should be having supervision.
Because you're not earning an income.
No, you're not earning, but you could maybe encourage the organisation you're volunteering for to cover some supervision costs for you. Because they have a duty of care to you. Counselling can be a very stressful occupation with some of the stories that we hear, and it's healthy for us to go and talk to someone else about what we're dealing with. Yeah.
I've actually been offered a position, and the counsellor has said that he would do this supervision.
That's good.
When
Excellent.
you, when you say supervision, you mean like us being counselled, right? Or just talking?
Well,
is
no, supervision's about bringing the work that you're doing
In
to.
one case.
So you might say, without identifying your clients, I'm dealing with a lady who is having panic attacks because she met someone in the street and they assaulted her.
Also, just getting help with ideas. And
It's
talking
getting
about
help with your professional work. So it's not someone looking over your shoulder, it's someone with more experience than you, who's further down the professional track than what you are, and who will be able to impart some of their wisdom to you. Because it's easy to get, I don't know if you've done much counselling practice with each other at all.
Yeah, we
Yes?
are. Some of us have, some of us
We
Yeah.
run triads on Fridays.
Okay. Yeah, use them as much as you can. But you'll find that even when you're doing them, even though you know the person, you'll get stuck and think, what do I do now? What do I say? A supervisor's good to be able to say, perhaps if you try that, or I wonder what was happening with the client, or what was happening for you as you spoke to the client.
So it's positive feedback, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be positive. I mean, I've had my supervisor say, I hope you didn't say that. And I've said, well, I did. You know, so it's about how do you better the work that you're doing. So it's just like doctors have to go off to conferences every
Yeah, they
single
do.
year and improve their knowledge. That's what supervision's like.
Yeah.
It's just someone further down the track than you that can walk with you on your counselling journey and help you do it really well. Yeah. Because we're responsible for the people that come and see us. Counselling's a very responsible occupation because people are coming to us hurt and fractured and broken often.
That's right.
We don't want to increase that brokenness. We want to
No.
help them find healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also don't want to have mental breakdowns of our own.
Yes, that's right, because that's always on the horizon somewhere, burnout, where you just can't work anymore, so you've really got to
And we're
protect
going to a
yourself.
counsellor.
That's right,
Well,
that's right, it's a never-ending story, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you choose your supervisor?
I would go to an association and look at their people that are registered supervisors. And I think a supervisor is just like a doctor or a counsellor. You need to find someone that you click with,
Okay.
someone that you feel you can connect to that's going to be helpful. I have a wonderful supervisor who has walked with me through all sorts of different experiences and he's so valuable. I mean, his fee is something like $200 an hour because he's been in the social work field for a long time, but he is invaluable just to be able to go and say, I'm dealing with this client or this situation's happened, what do I do? So I'd always recommend supervision, but find someone who's qualified, not just someone who thinks, oh, I've been counselling for 5 years, I might supervise other people. They need specific training.
Question, do you do a lot of networking within this organisation?
When we have professional development, lots of people come along, and also through Christian Heritage College there's a networking evening once a month called Common Ground, where people are encouraged to come in and share and swap business cards and talk about what they do. And I always find that I won't refer my clients to someone else unless I personally know them. I'm just a bit fussy, but I like to know who I'm referring to. Yeah. Any other questions? So do you understand a bit more about supervision?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes?
You've partially answered my question, and I was going to say is, do you normally associate with a supervisor in the same sex?
Well, I have partly answered your question. I
Yes,
think as
that's right.
counsellors, we learn boundaries. You know, you really need to learn good boundaries, and you understand the dynamics of transference. And I don't know if you've learned transference and counter-transference. So we're sort of at a state where we're doing professional work, so we can. When I was first starting out as a counsellor, there was a very big thing, especially in Christian circles. You know, don't go to counselling with someone of the opposite sex. But I think a counsellor is more trained to deal with that than a pastor actually is, because they don't get training about things that can happen. Yeah. So yes. I'm happy to answer your questions further on if you want to pass questions on to Corey, and then I can answer them for you if that helps.
Yeah.
You know.
Or if you just spend a few minutes when we're done,
Yes.
some individual questions
Yes.
might come up.
Yeah. Yeah. Has anyone else got anything else that's a burning question for them? I really applaud you for going into the counselling world. It's a lovely thing to help people, but we really have to make sure we're looking after ourselves as well. We don't get caught up in the whole, doing things. So, yeah. So, any other
Because
questions?
we're listening to their pain and their sadness, and then we take it home, and then of course it affects us.
That's exactly right. And that's why supervision is so vital, because I think over the years, the more experience you have, you get better at putting it where it belongs. I mean, I worked at Lifeline to start with on the telephones, so I had to develop very set ways of closing the door on my shift. And now my plan is that I see my client, write my notes, file them away straight away, and that actually helps to put it all where it belongs. If I have something that sits with me for a while, and I've had a few, that's when I go to supervision and talk about why that case is getting to me. I've had situations where I've dealt with people. As a supervisor, I had a client who was dealing with someone who a murder had occurred in her house. So she actually needed to come and offload to me, and then I was traumatised by that, so I had to go to my supervisor. And we worked out, he's a very clever man, he said, "Heather, do you have a son?" And I said, "Yes, I do." Our sons were both exactly the same age as the victim. And we would never have picked that up between us. And I've been a supervisor for a long time, but I couldn't work out why I was so traumatised by this particular story. And my supervisor said, "I just wonder if it's that." And that made all the sense in the world. So that's just a bit of an example. Yes. Yeah. And as a counsellor too, I'm sure you know the basics about confidentiality.
Yep.
Don't talk about your clients in public anywhere. When we're at Lifeline, often because of the work you do at Lifeline, you need to debrief, but there was a situation where Lifeline counsellors went out for dinner and they were discussing a case, and the woman at the table next door was related to that person. So you have to be very, very careful.
Oh.
So, you might think, I can talk about this client, but I won't identify her, but you do have to be really careful that
So what
somebody might know
happened
them. They got a very firm talking to, and training there was changed as a result of that. It's very, very important.
Because Lifeline's very strict, isn't it?
Yes, this was 20 odd years ago when I was there, but yeah, they are strict and they need to be too, because they're dealing with people's lives. Yep. Any other questions?
What was your background prior to going into counselling?
I worked for the government for a while in primary industries. I always was one of those people that people talk to though. I'd be in a lift and someone would say, "Oh, I'm having a terrible day." Then my brother got divorced and I had him and his wife both talking to me about how it was for them. So I decided to go to Lifeline and actually learn some counselling skills. And I did that for 6 years. And then my church offered me to take over from the psychologist that was there, so I went and got face-to-face training, because it's two different things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know where we can go to actually give Lifeline and Headspace, the ones you call, feedback on how they've handled phone calls?
You'd probably have to contact them for that sort of information, or look on their website. Most websites will have a place for feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you, Heather.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, and I believe we've got a few questions that was answered. Some of the questions was directed to me sometimes, and I don't really know. So this is your opportunity still, while Heather's still here, even if when we're not in class anymore, to ask us
And
personal.
look, that's what the association's for as well.
Yes.
If you're a member, you can contact the committee and
Yeah,
ask questions. Yes.
I don't know if this is what happens, but with Christian counselling,